location, and they called Oak Ridge Dog Patch, so Dog Patch was a Eastman Kodak trade name. It also was a little Abner cartoons. And that's where Krause had been going, the famous secret city behind the fence. We had to have a pass to get into the city. After I'd spent about 2 weeks in Mickey Mouse courses, I called them, while the FBI was examining into our backgrounds to see if we were secure people, could be trusted with whatever information we were going to get. I finally got out to the plant, was given another badge at the plant, which got me into the interior location of the research labs of Tennessee Eastman NY12. The man running those labs was a man named Herbert Young. Turned out to be a professor from University of California at Davis, which was the agricultural school of the University of California, and where a man named E.O. Lawrence had gotten some of his chemists, because he was a physicist. He had invented a way to separate, well, we haven't got there yet in the story, certain isotopes. So I sat down with Dr. Young, and just the two of us, his office. He says, well, now, Howard, you're going to be learning a good deal about this plant and what we do. And he said, you've got to be very secret about it. We don't talk about it to other people. And he said, we will be working with an element which is yellow in solution. I figured, I knew uranium was yellow in solution. He didn't say uranium. Atomic number is 92, well, that's uranium. Atomic weight 238, and I said 0.07. And he looked at me, he's a smart kid. He could tell I'd been reading about uranium chemistry, and he says the name, and I started to say uranium. And he said tube alloy. Tube alloy. It turned out to be a British code name. We never called uranium uranium in Oak Ridge. Now, he never said that the job of Oak Ridge, Y12, the big Eastman plant, was to isolate nearly pure uranium-235 from natural uranium. But I learned that because of the work I did. I worked as the chemist in a small lab which was set up to learn how to make uranium tetrafluoride, which was going to be shipped to Los Alamos. All we knew it was to be shipped somewhere. The rumors were it was site-wide. Say a few words about the size of that plant. It took 29,000 people to build the Y12 plant. It had 24,000 employees. It was a huge place. 25,000 construction people, 24,000 employees, 49,000 total. That's the correct number. The product was nearly pure, about 80% pure uranium-235, and those 24,000 people, by the end of the war, had made about 140 pounds. 140 pounds of product made by 24,000 people. That was some of the most expensive product ever made by man. Y12 was part of the Manhattan Project. I'm going to back up now in the story to talk about why Y12 existed. And this is information that I learned after the bombs were dropped. We'll talk about the bombs a little bit later. Back in 1896, mankind first learned of anything unusual about atoms. And that was when a French physicist named Becquerel found out that the uranium salt would expose photographic film in the dark, even though the film was wrapped in black paper. Completely unheard of. It was letting out x-rays that exposed, but he didn't know that. He told the Curies, and you remember Madame Curie isolated an element called radium and an element called polonium, not plutonium, polonium. You'll recall polonium's been in the news in the last year. A man died in Great Britain from polonium. Polonium's a dangerous material to fool with because it's an exceedingly active alpha particle emitter. It won't hurt your hands, but it'll destroy your internal tissues because you don't have the protection of skin. By 1932, people knew that there was another unusual material in the world called a neutron. That's the year that Chadwick in Great Britain discovered the neutron. By then, Rutherford, who was a New Zealander working in Canada, had found the middle of the atom. Rutherford's the nucleus of the atom. Rutherford's associate, Soddy, had discovered that there was more than one form of some elements, uranium-235 being an isotope of uranium-238, which is the common form. Soddy coined the word isotopes. In 1934, a man named Leo Szilard comes into the story. S-Z-I-L-A-R-D, Leo Szilard, the genius in the shadows. Szilard was a Austrian or German, I forget which. He escaped from Germany from the Nazi treatment of the Jews in 1933. Szilard kept his bags packed all the time, kept them upright, the handles pointed to the door. He could walk in the door, grab his 2 bags, and walk out. And he did one day and caught a train. He didn't have to pack them, they were already packed. Every day he packed his bags. Caught a train and went to Austria. The next day the Germans closed the border to Austria. He was a Jew. They would have killed him. The Nazis were horrible people. Szilard was in London in 1934, and there's a famous story in the books about him stepping out from a curb to cross a street in Southampton. When he got to the far side of the street, the world had changed. He had invented, as he crossed the street, the nuclear chain reaction, which is the bomb, which are nuclear piles. In this room, 20% of the energy coming into this room, being used to make this recording, comes from nuclear energy today. All of that comes from the work of Leo Szilard and others, but he invented them. Now, he didn't know how he could use the neutron to get this reaction to occur. He invented the idea of a neutron coming into an atom. Neutron has no charge, so it can penetrate the electron shell of an atom, and it's not resisted by the positive core of the atom. So the neutron can go right in. If he had a source of neutrons, and if he had an element that would break apart and give off energy when it broke apart, then he could get a power source. If these things happened at the right rates, you could get a bomb. So he invented the nuclear bomb. Now, he didn't know what would work. He didn't know anything about uranium. In 1938, a Jewess named Lise Meitner, working at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute in Berlin with 2 chemists, was working on uranium picking up neutrons to see what would happen. She hoped she'd make bigger elements than uranium. Uranium pick up an element, pick up a neutron, give off an electron, and become a higher element. And that give off another electron, become a higher element, larger atomic number. That happens, but she didn't discover that. Other people discovered it. Right in the middle of her experiments, she got scared of the Nazis, and her friends